Welcome to the Knit-a-thon. It's day 18 of our Crafting for a Cause. We're crafting for cancer fighters and spreading comfort and hope to cancer patients going through chemo. This is a Knit-a-thon, and today just happens to be a really stormy day outside. Don't know if you can hear that or just can tell that it's a bit dark in here. There's a storm outside brewing, but inside we are still spreading comfort and hope to all cancer patients. Today we're working on a special project. It is another cozy chemo scarf that we're working on. Today's project is sponsored by Laura. Thank you, Laura, for sponsoring this project. Sponsors are showing up so much, and I am so excited for it. So, here's our calendar of projects. We have a project every day that we're working on live in November. So, we completed a scarf on Friday. I'm sorry, Saturday. And now today on Monday, we're working on another scarf. So this calendar shows all the projects that we're going to be working on each day. And it also shows the sponsor, the person that sponsored that project. And in order to sponsor a project, you can donate to the American Cancer Society. Your donation goes directly to the American Cancer Society, and you also get to sponsor an item for me to knit and or crochet. Our beanies, our cozy chemo beanies, are knitted on by Addy Express circular knitting machine, as well as the cozy chemo scarves. They are also knitted on the Addy Express circular knitting machine. The bookmarkers that we have, the stem of the bookmarker is knitted on the Addy Express in a panel setting, but the flower at the top of the bookmarker is crocheted. So we have two different types of fibers. Well, the same yarn, but two ways to craft these projects that we're working on. So it's so cool. And as you can see, all the days in November are full, but we still have an overflow calendar with items that continue to be added. This is so amazing. So as you can see, today we have a completed project from our overflow tracker, and that project was sponsored by Deborah. And I can show you what that project looks like. It's a cozy chemo cap. This cozy chemo cap was sponsored by Deborah. I'll put it on the screen this way as well so that you can see it. Look how cute. So if you remember, on Saturday, we created this scarf. So this cap actually complements this scarf. So cool. Let's put it in the screen this way so you can see the cap and the complementary or coordinating scarf and cap set. So cool. Thank you, Deborah. Awesome. And the tag that you saw on there is a tag that goes on every single project just to show that it was, in fact, handcrafted with love. The sponsor's name goes right in the middle. So if you haven't sponsored yet, you can definitely still do that and get a tag with your name on it on a special project that was created and sponsored by you. How cool is that? I think it's cool. So the project that we're working on today is red. Red happens to be my favorite color. We got a little bit of a head start today because on the scarves, we definitely need a head start. So we're going to continue with this scarf. We are at row 85. On the scarves, we're going to 220 rows. The scarves are infinity scarves. So at the end, we're going to connect it together. This beautiful red, actually, it's called deep red. This is the big twist yarn. This big twist yarn is so soft and I love it. It works so good in the Abby machine. In case you didn't know, we are live every day at 9 o'clock in the Knit at 9 series. I know we have lots of new YouTube subscribers. Thank you to all the new subscribers on YouTube. If you're tuning in, thank you for tuning in with us live. Or if you're watching on the replay, I definitely thank you for tuning in into our crafting for a cause. This cause is near and dear to my heart because cancer is in my family. And I know if you're watching, you probably know someone in your family or friends that have battled with cancer or are currently battling with cancer. So the support is very important, as you likely know. Supporting with words of encouragement, or if you don't know what to say, just getting them a gift to let them know that you're thinking about them. So we're actually using a different overhead viewer today, and I should have had it into do not disturb, but I didn't. See if we can get it back in there so that you can see the overhead view. Here's my overhead camera. I may not be able to get it back. You're stuck with me. You're stuck with me. And the let's let you see the calendar here. I'm gonna take this one off. At least you'll be able to see the progress that we have made, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So this, I think I want to still try to um, see if I can get the overhead back. Let's see. Hmm, no worries. We'll just be able to see the progress calendar. We have made it to row 113. Let's go ahead and remove this. So on, I have one of the things I have noticed, and I'm not sure how close you'll be able to see this, but since I don't have the overhead view anymore, on some of the big twist yarn, I noticed that there's like a little knot in here. And so far, when I used it on a different project, the little knot wasn't an issue, and that one came through as well, and it wasn't an issue. But that's the only, I guess, as of now, since I've been using big twist yarn, that's the only flaw that I've noticed. And on one yarn that I used, one of the skeins that I used, there were actually two knots in there. So it's almost as if while manufacturing it, they didn't have enough to complete the full, let's see, how much is this? 380 yards. So they had to add additional to complete that full skein. And there's a little knot that comes through. Luckily, it's able to go through the Golden Gate Bridge with no problem, and it's also able to be, pulled under that hook with no problem. No problem thus far. So that was the first knot that I felt in this big twist yarn. Hopefully, it's the only knot that we jump into, that we run into. And when it shows up on the inside of the project, which is good. It's not showing up on the outside. I'm going to have a manufactured knot. I definitely don't want it to show up on the outside of the project, but it will not stop us in our progress as long as it comes through the machine okay, and so far it has. So this is a beautiful deep red. I may have to make myself a red one. I like this color. I really do like this color. Good morning, Pam. Thank you for tuning in with us this morning. Today, we don't have an overview of our project. My iPhone, which is the project view, is not working today. I borrowed Mr. Smith's phone and I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb, so it kicked us out of the overhead view. You're stuck with me and you're stuck with this amazing calendar that we have with all of our projects showing up. I mean, not only that, the overflow calendar continues to get additional projects added. And if you're interested in donating to the American Cancer Society and sponsoring a project, you can definitely get all the details in the description of this video. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can get the detail on how to donate on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, you can definitely get the details there. If you're watching on Instagram, hey Kelly, I see Kelly's watching from Instagram today. You can definitely, I will post the details on Instagram because I don't think it comes through on the live video, but I'll make sure to post the details for sponsoring. Good morning, Susie. Thank you for tuning in with us from Facebook specifically. Thank you for tuning in. So happy to see you. Your project is coming up this week. Both of your projects are coming up this week, Susie. As you can see on the overflow tracker. We are at 149. For some reason, with the software, the streaming software that I use, it doesn't let me display the Instagram comments, Instagram feed. I can see it, but I can't pull it into the stream. But we know you're here, Kelly. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, Susie, that's so sweet. This project is near and dear to my heart, and I know many people have been affected, whether it's directly in your family or friends or yourself. You never know. Um, I appreciate you for being a part of this. So you're welcome and thank you. You're welcome and thank you as well. I love all things crafty, knitting and crocheting. There's a lot of different crafts that I like to do. Knitting and crocheting, I have been doing most recently, so I guess those two are at the top of my crafting list. But as you can see, or maybe you didn't know, I'm actually sitting in my dream box. If you're familiar with the dream box, it's like an armoire that has different bins that you can pull in and out, and trays that you can pull in and out, and this door here that has all types of hooks and storage space and bins that you can just store all things crafty. And it has this table that folds out, so there's like three different areas, three different sides that you can store all of your crafting things and just have it in arm's reach. So I love my dream box. It has all the things. But I do still have a couple of overflow drawers, big bins that hold larger items that don't necessarily fit into the smaller spaces that I have, like fabric and longer books and mailers, bubble mailers, and things like that. Or when I'm sending happy mail, I love to send happy mail as well. We're at row 171. And well, this yarn that we're using, it didn't start as a full skein. I did use some of it for a previous project. So we'll probably go through the whole skein for our 220 rows. But if we do need another skein, I have a couple more over there that we can use from my last yarn haul. But big twist, this yarn we're using, it crochets up so pretty. It helps to have really consistent stitches, and I love it. And also, if you're new to um, joining in on our Knit at Nine series, these are the items that can be sponsored. There are about 40 rows out of having a completed cozy skirt. It doesn't seem like we've been doing the knit-a-thon for 2 weeks. I mean, we're basically halfway finished, halfway started, however you look at it, half empty, half full. I think I'm going to miss this live once we're at the end of November. I'll have to maybe think of a new series to do so that I can continue to create with everyone. Oh, you like this red? Yes, this is very deep. It's a nice, pretty red. I love it too. Red's my favorite color, so I don't think there's a red that I don't like, but I definitely like the depth in this color. This is the color that I have in mind for the Santa hat that I'm going to make for myself. So, of course, the base of it, everything is going to be red. And then I'll have the brim part that we flip will be ivory. But I think I may put some fun fur on that brim just so that it can be fluffy. It can be a little bit fluffy. And two, I'm also thinking of getting I love this yarn white with the metallic in there. But I guess I could get the metallic and still add some fun fur just to make it fluffy. The safety caps will be for me. It's just a fun project for myself. Using this gorgeous red. So my overflow, not overflow, overhead project view here is still buzzing because this is not my phone. This is Mr. Smith's phone, and I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. That's why we got kicked out of the overhead view. Sorry. Oh, thank you, Kelly. That's I think you're referring to my Santa cap that I'm going to make. Yeah. And of course, I'll probably put a white fold for pom-pom for my tail. And I'll probably make it a little slouchy. So it'll be a bit longer. Yeah. I don't know. On that one, I may do. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe I won't do a flip. I'll just do like a skull, but still have like the last 20 rows on it, a different color, that white color. I don't. I may make it both ways. Decisions. We'll see when I start creating it. I'll make mine. I know. I'll make mine one way, and I'll make Mr. Smith's the other way. So that way, at that point, I can just choose which one I want and just give him the other one because he's not going to be picky. He's not going to be picky. Wow, we are at 220, so I didn't even realize we are there. 220. And we have this much yarn left. Let me bring you in closer. We have this much yarn left at 220. So I'm going to take a tail that goes around twice and then cut it. This will be the tail we use to bind it together. But I also have to add on the waste yarn. So I'm just going to add this tail inside and then go in with our waste yarn, which is a contrasting color just so we can see the stitches. So I'm holding these two tails that unfortunately you can't see. So I'm holding those two tails as I knit the first few stitches and just pulling this a little bit tighter. Now we're going to knit about 4 or 5 rows of waist yarn. Actually, on the very end, I can just knit it until it runs out. Ooh, we've got some tension here. But our waist yarn is complete. So taking that off, out of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is the yarn feeder, this golden part right here. It's out of the feeder. Now we're just going to go around twice until the project falls off of the machine. And you'll see it in the view here coming apart. Awesome. So now I'm going to get this machine out of the way, unscrew in my brackets. These brackets help to hold it down. And I'm going to have to maybe reposition my camera so that you can see the project length at, because now I can't really see it. Now at least you don't have to necessarily see me. You want to see the project here. So there's no color changes. So we don't have to tie up any ends on the inside. So we're just going to flip it out on the right side. Look how pretty. And the end with the tail, with the long tail, I'm going to pull it through. My tail is on the wrong side. I have my arm here getting the tail. Here are the tails for this side, and here are the tails for this side. So I'm putting the tail up at the top, flattening it out so I can put both halves flat on top of each other. And we can mend it up together. So having this white on the end, it already makes me think about Christmas, and it makes me feel like I'm working on my Santa hat already. So I'm going to go ahead and add my darning needle. Love, love, love using the metal darning needle because it just goes through the stitches without splitting them so much easier. So on this very first one, we're going to go into the same side where the long tail is in this very first stitch once. And as you can see, having this contrasting color for the waist yarn, it lets you easily see what where to add your stitches, because we're not stitching up the waist yarn. The waist yarn, we're just pulling that off afterwards. So here's the tail, and here is the next stitch that we want to go in. careful not to stitch the waste yarn. So then on this side, here's the tail, and here's the next stitch that we're going into. And then now, as we go back and forth, I'm going to go into the previous stitch and then the next on one side, and go into the previous stitch and then the next on the other side, alternating back and forth on both sides, on either side. Which is why we have to have this long tail just to make sure that we have enough to go all the way around, because we're basically kissing the stitches. We're making them, um, both sides meet up and kiss. That's not a technical term. I really missed have not having the overhead view for you so that you can see, um, what's happening. I'm going to let you watch this and hopefully I'm going to try to see if I can get it back on track here while I share information with you about the sponsors and the prize drawing. Hey, sponsors, donators. I don't know if you know, but you are going to be entered into a prize drawing. It's a raffle for your donations. And if you haven't sponsored or donated yet, you still have time to enter into the raffle if you are listening to this in between November 1st and November 30th. You still have time to enter into this raffle. How do you enter? By donating to the American Cancer Society and sponsoring a knitting item. I am raffling off 3 items, 3 winners. Thanks to Sherry, there's going to be 3 winners. Yay, Sherry. So I'm raffling off my positive affirmation. This is a blank notebook that you can use for journaling or however you want to use it. Grocery list, thought list, brainstorming, whatever you need, right? This is my positive affirmation 90-day prompt journal. This is intentional. There's also a bookmarker in here, which is a card. But this takes you through 90 days of affirmations and 90 days of journaling and 90 days of scriptures associated with your daily affirmation. And it focuses on self-confidence. So 90 days to unleash self-confidence. This is my first volume of my positive affirmation series, first of 4 volumes. And also this positive affirmation zipper pouch. What can you use it for? Whatever you want. It's a big sized zipper pouch. I guess this is about, it's close to the size of 8.5 by 11, but that's not the exact size. I don't know what the size is, but you have this to store all the things that you want to store in there. 3 winners to win one of these items. So if you've not donated or sponsored today, what are you waiting for? Yes, what are you waiting for? So I was able to add the other overview. Yay! So now you can see closer what I'm doing up until we may get kicked off again. So we're going alternating sides. As I roll this back, you can see the far red line on both sides. Those are the stitches that we're going in. So we're going into the previous stitch and then into the next stitch and pulling it through. And then on this side, into the previous stitch and into the next stitch and pulling it through. And that is actually what we're doing all the way around, alternating back and forth from one side to the next to seam them together for our infinity scarf look. So my goal now is to have 15 sets, like a hat and a scarf set, at the end of the month. And then however many bookmarkers we have sponsored. And then we'll probably have some additional hats, beanie caps that are in addition to the 15 sets. Because some of the colors that I've created I don't have additional yarn to do a coordinating scarf. So some of them will be sets, most of them will be sets, but some will have just a hat by itself. But my goal is to do 15 sets. So that takes us to the 30 days in November. It's basically 15 hats and 15 scarves for each of the days. And then the additional items that have been sponsored, it's just extra. So when I package them up before donating to my local hospital, I'm still thinking that I will pack them up individually, um, so that each item could be given individually. I'll let the director know that there are some coordinating sets, like hat and scarf sets, but I'll let them decide if they're going to do it together or separate. And I think that will be decided just based on how many patients they have or how they want to distribute them, which is up to them. Almost got that waist yarn. Well, today is Monday on day 18 of our knit-a-thon, and it's a rainy day outside. Not sure if it's going to rain all day, um, but we're washing away some of that pollen in the air that has caused me to my allergies to flare up. So I guess if the rain is a good thing. Rain is better than ice, better than snow. I say that coming from a heat miser mindset. I'm not a fan of the cold. Here in Texas, we don't have the winters the same way that we do in Ohio. When I lived in Ohio, the Buckeyes know exactly what I'm talking about. The seasons there totally different than the seasons here. Winter is not the winter in every state. It's not the same winter in every state. I'm curious to know how many different states we have watching us today on day 18. What state or country are you watching from? And if you're watching this on the replay, definitely still type in. I'm curious to know where the viewers are on this video, what state you're in, or what country are you in and province. You are watching this, and I am in the big state of Texas. Texas, USA. I know I had a New Zealand subscriber last week. We're reaching to New Zealand. That is amazing. That's amazing to me. Oh, so cool. Coming up on the end, we just have a few more stitches to go. Oh, Kelly loves the snow. Makes me chill thinking about it. So you love the cold weather and the snow. One thing I like about the snow is the fireplace. The ability to create a fire to keep warm when it's cold outside. So Kelly, are you oh, and I also love cocoa. That's another thing I love about the snow, drinking hot chocolate with some marshmallows. So Kelly, are you a skier? Do you do activities in the snow, or do you just like to see it out the window? Okay, so Maryland, it doesn't get as much snow as in Ohio. Yes, I see. Ohio gets a lot of snow for sure. As you know, growing up there. right, so we are at the end of our binding, and we know that we're at the end when we make it to the end when both of our tails line up right across from each other. So I'm going to cut off this excess, move the darning needle, of course, and now it's time to remove the waste yarn. I'm going to start with the one that's a little bit, that takes a bit longer because I have to take off this cast on row first before I could just pull and unravel the waste yarn. So I'm pulling off this cast on row all the way around, and it's, if I unravel the rows here, it's just this last row. I pull on it and tug it, and it comes all the way through. And I'm just taking this off all the way around. I know I've gotten to the end when it just starts to unravel. Okay, so this is the last of the cast on row. And now that we've taken that off, the waste yarn, we can just pull it and it unravels. So cool. This waste yarn makes me think of snow because we're talking about snow. Oh, Susie says she's not a fan of snow. I've been in plenty of it living in Illinois, but since I moved to southern Illinois, there's more ice than snow. That's actually what happens here in Texas. When we do have a freeze or an Arctic blast, as they like to call it here, I noticed that there's rain for several days, then the temperature drops, and then we have ice. So that happens here in Texas as well. And no one can drive on that ice, but especially not when it's treated with sand instead of salt. So I understand. Kelly said no skiing anymore, but you love the fireplace and Coco. Yes, me too. In our fireplace, actually, I think, let me think. Um, I've been in this house for a long time. um, and I'm trying to remember how many times I have actually put logs in the fireplace. I like to use the starter logs and light that. So I'm going to now tie a knot into these two ends, these two tails. So the first knot is going to be kind of not very tight, but the next ones are going to be tighter. And then I'm going to cut off a bit more excess so I can weave in the ends, or just tuck them in actually. Since this is a double walled scarf, I can just weave it through and then stretch it so that that tail gets lost, gets absorbed into the double wall. And we do the same thing with this other tail. So now our tails are all weaved in. Awesome. Well, Let's try to flatten it out a little. And here's our minding binding row where we seamed it together. And this is why I like to use the same color on the beginning on the end, because this design that you see right here, if it was two different colors, those two colors would be like weaved together. It's not a bad thing, but I like the monochrome look when I do weave in two sides of the same color. Cool. Let me fix my screen back. Head on. Wait, not that much. Wait, a little bit more. Technical difficulties today, but we survived. Definitely survived. So this project was sponsored by Laura. Thank you, Laura, for sponsoring this beautiful, deep red, cozy chemo scarf. So let's go ahead and put the tag on here before I forget. Using my crochet hook to help me. Grab one end on that side. Grab this end on this side. And tie a bow. My bow is kind of wonky, but that's okay. So here's our deep red scarf, sponsored by Laura. Thank you so much, Laura, for sponsoring this project. Thank you, Kelly. It turned out great. Pam is tuning in from Chicago, Illinois. Another Illinois uh, viewer. Thanks, Pam. So this was our project today on today's live. This red scarf, and this is our overflow project that was sponsored by Deborah. And if you remember the scarf that we made on Saturday, it coordinates with that. So cool. Thank you to all of our sponsors today. Let me get my head out of the camera of the overflow camera. I'm glad to see where everyone is tuning in from, what state everyone is tuning in from. It's always cool to see how the reach is, how far the reach is on um, social media, right? Especially with this project, with this knit-a-thon that we're doing. And I say we because we're all doing it together with all the sponsors, all the viewers. Even if you haven't sponsored, but you're tuning in, we're still doing it together. But if you'd like to sponsor, you definitely can sponsor any of the items that we have on the items to sponsor list. This beanie, scarf, or even a bookmarker. You have your choice, or just a flat donation also helps. Let's see if there's any other comments that we have here. Take that one out of the view. Oh, I think that's all of our comments um, for today. Well, so I thank you for tuning in for our knit-a-thon, and we will definitely be back tomorrow creating another project. Let's see, what are we creating? We're creating another cozy chemo scarf sponsored by Laura. That's so cool. And then on the overflow project, we will have a bookmarker that is created that I'm actually working on right now. So I'll show that overflow project to you tomorrow while we are working on the scarf. Thank you for tuning in to the Knit-a-thon. Until tomorrow, Janet, Janae, and Addie are out.